Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to Back to Spirit School. We're going to get started in just a minute. Let everybody get a chance to join on and get started with this fascinating, gentillating webinar that we're going to have shortly on our great panel.
Hi, thanks for getting me on camera here because now I got to see right. Like, I need to get this right. I got a wedding next weekend for myself. You know, I'm already married, but you made me realize I need to do some damn grooming in this house. So appreciate you having me.
Well, on that note, Nick, we're going to start the webinar. Thank you. We appreciate that. It's great to have you here. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our latest edition of Back to Spirit School and a new year for gin. This is Lars Light from the Tasting Panel magazine, and I want to thank our sponsors. We have Lyre's non-alcoholic spirits, and we have FIU, Florida Institute, International University, and the Bacardi Center for Excellence. So we're really excited to be here and talk about gin. This is being recorded. We're on Facebook Live, so everybody knows about Nick's wedding coming up that he's going to be attending and his grooming needs. We're all thrilled about that. And you're going to find links. You're going to find this recording also on tastingpanel.com, as well as through FIU too. The printed recap of this webinar is going to be in the January-February issue 2022, which is our January issue of Tasting Panel magazine. So we hope you tune into that. So today we're here to talk about gin. In many ways, gin has got a real great history. Shortened from the Old English juniper, derived from the Latin juniperous. So that tells you a little bit about what the ancient Romans knew about the beneficial effects of juniper, especially in plague times, which to me means that we're sort of in a modern plague right now, so all the more reason to drink more gin. It was a medicinal liquor produced by monasteries and alchemists throughout Europe into the Middle Ages. The earliest reference goes back to the 11th century when Benedictine monks were making it in Salerno, Italy. And the earliest printed recipe is from 16th century Holland. So it was a real pan-European drink. Of course, the Dutch made it famous for warming themselves up for the 80 Years' War before battle. They was called it Dutch courage. England, it became very popular after they put heavy taxes on French brandy. Sorry again to bash the French, but that's when gin became popular in England. And the gin craze started then, and it was blamed for a lot of the problems, the social problems or the social challenges, should we call them, in growing London. That's where we get the terms gin mill, gin joint, gin soaked, mother's ruin, bathtub gin, and so forth. I think gin really hit the highway when it was time when the British had to use quinine to combat malaria, and the quinine was so bitter that they cut it with gin, and that gave birth to the gin and tonic. Not a bad thing at all. And we've then have spurned off into different styles: Plymouth gin, London gin, Old Tom, slow gin, Geneva, and so forth. And today, with the birth of many different botanicals, I think we're living in a new golden age for gin. And who better than talk about golden age for gin than the golden boy of FIU?
I don't know about that setup there, Lars.
Professor Brian Connors from FIU. Hey, Brian.
Grazie. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, you know, Lars, the history is right on point, but this conversation today is going to be amazing. All right, let's get this out of the way. Nick, I got to have a cocktail with you someday. That's all I'm saying. You know, we can swap grooming techniques. You know, I was on camera yesterday, so I feel your pain. I had to actually shave off my beard. But so yeah, you got to
appreciate that because you got it going on. You're pretty well groomed over there. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, you know, I learned from the best, you know. But
Brian,
you know,
GQ Connors.
Yeah, something along those lines. But you know, in all seriousness, you know, gin's having a good year, and the future is bright for gin. You know, if you look at, and again, all all kidding aside, the lineup we have today are some definitely heavy hitters in the gin segment. So we have some great educational opportunities for us today. But we're seeing sales up 2020, also up again for the overall gin category. We're going to be learning a lot about what's going on inside these categories and some of these great overall brands that we're going to be talking about today, what they're doing. But even brands we work with, Bacardi, we're seeing a elevated sales, which is fantastic. Also, the younger generation, the next generation, are embracing gin. And I know we're going to hear from our friends from Lyres, but this is also a good thing because they see it's an alternative experience as well. But we can't jump ahead and say that things like our ready to drink cocktails and our ready to drinks that are out there in our RDTs are trending. Gin overall ready to drink cocktails is going very, very well. Bombay Sapphire just launched that recently, and we're seeing plus sales for that. And we actually just talked about that here at FIU at the Bacardi Center of Excellence. But keep a lookout, and I'll be curious from our panel today. A couple other key things. We're seeing a lot of mixologists, a newer take on a gin is with different flavors, different flavor profiles. Really excited. I'm based out of Miami here now, so we have the hot weather still, so we're seeing that. And CBD and gin. I'm curious about that. It's a category I'm not an expert on, but CBD and gin is a thing, and we're seeing it a lot kind of popping up just in research and some of the feedback we're getting from the market. So I guess for all of us on this panel today, but also for the individuals joining us and listening to us on Facebook Live, let's keep an eye on that. But with that being said, gin is trending, Lars. I'm very happy to report that. So I think we're right on point today for our conversation. So I'll throw it back to you, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Brian, as you guys know, we're not to make anybody jealous, but somebody's got to do this stuff. I'm traveling through Italy right now, and I got to tell you, there's a lot of winemakers that are starting to make gin here, which is pretty cool. Craft gin coming out of Chianti, coming out of Piedmont. So it's pretty cool. So I've been doing my best research to try to taste all the gins that I can across Italy. But we also thrillingly have Kyle Billings from Lyre's Non-Alcoholic Spirits to talk to us about the fact that gin doesn't always have to have alcohol to it to be as refreshing and crisp and healthy as it is. So welcome, Kyle.
Thank you, Lars. Hi to everyone. Listen, I will co-sign the sentiment that gin is a tonic for the times. Medicinal value continues. And as Connor or Brian said that, it's gin sales have exploded, and we at Lyres are certainly big fans. Some of my personal favorite cocktails include the Corpse Survivor #2, an Aviation, Clover Club. There's a ton of things that you can do with these cocktails, and we're thrilled that Lyres can offer kind of that non-alcoholic option for people. I'm also very happy that Tim Rita is on the call today, because I don't think anybody has a more prolific, esteemed background than he does. I'm excited to see what he whips up for us. And then just a little bit of kind of a teaser, if you will. We have a little bit of a new gin variant coming in the coming months, so keep your eyes open for that. But that being said, I'm thrilled to talk about gin because, like I said, we're big fans here at Lyres.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kyle. And Tim, you look like you're a little in the dark, but I have the feeling that you're going to shed a lot of light on non-alcoholic gin. So why don't you step up and get us started?
Aloha. Welcome for having me on. Why I'm in the dark? It's I'm on location at the fabulous Golden Tiki in Las Vegas. And why I'm at the Golden Tiki? It's a badass bar. Why not? But we're talking about gin. So in the tiki world, rum always reigns supreme. But I love to point out probably the most emerging, resurging cocktail is the Saturn. Here we call it the Rings of Saturn, which is delicious. So before I babble on a little bit more, I'll do what I do best. I'll make a cocktail for you. But
please,
first and foremost, I will start with my lemon juice, which I will use 5.5, so half an ounce of that. And in tiki fashion, a lot of the goodies are batched. So I have some orgeat, some Fees Falernum, so there's no alcohol in it, and some passion fruit. So keeping it 0 ABV, that's for the mix. And then last but not least, I have my London Dry. Beautiful product, brings out all the essence, botanicals that you'll find in the London Dry, which I love. I call it tricking people into an NA cocktail. So let me
It's a nice trick.
add, add that to the mix. Then I'll give it a nice little whip shake. Moving in my face. That's all in there. Then we'll pour it directly into the glass. Then I'll top it off a little bit just to give a nice little crown of ice, like most tiki cocktails show. Vegas is perfect for tiki cocktails because it's so hot here. When everyone else is freezing, we are still hot. And then this, I will do our traditional garnish with our rings of Saturn, which is a cherry. We use a peach ring. So this is the rings of Saturn. But because we're at the Golden Tiki, like I mentioned, I need a tiki expert to help me, set fire to the ring a little bit. So I brought none other than Jungle Jason Hughes. If you don't know him, you better know him. And what we're gonna do is a little bit of tiki fun. So
Yeah.
this guy. And you ready?
There you go. I knew you'd be shedding light.
There you go. That way, it takes away any alcohol that was part of the plate. Thank you, Jungle. But let me blow that out. Last but not least, let me try this out. Saturn.
Who's with you there in the background, Tim?
Oh, I got my whole bar. So I had Jungle Jason Hughes. He's been here since the conception of the Golden Tiki. Awesome dude. Just needed to have him in here to help me with, invoke the tiki gods. But talking about the Saturn, just to go back into the history of the Saturn, because I went right into making it. Saturn just got, it was almost like one of those that got rediscovered by Beach Bum Berry. But the originator of the cocktail was a California bartender by the name of Jay Popogassini. You're in a real bar, so you're gonna hear stuff. And he basically won the IBA in 1967 with the Saturn. So, since then, everyone, has put their own personal touches on it, and everybody loves it. And why? Because it's made with gin. I love rum, like everyone else, like every other pirate in the tiki world. But when you can turn someone on to a gin cocktail in general, and a tiki one, there's wins all around. So cheers to that.
Cheers. Amen. Thank you, Tim. Nicely done. And we're going to hear from Tim again shortly afterwards. But right now, we're going to switch over to Zoe van der Grinten. So we're talking about Dutch Courage here, Zoe. That sounds like a good name for Dutch Courage. But you're Bombay Gin. So you're the brand ambassador. So tell us about your Dutch Courage and your Bombay Gin, please.
Hello. I'm just going to get on sharing my screen over here. All right. So yes, this is me, Zoe van der Grinten. So I'm the Bombay brand ambassador over in New York. And you have my Instagram and my phone number there. Instagram if you want to tag me in any fun Bombay pictures. But today I'm really going to be touching on, in this first little segment, why Bombay Sapphire? It's been around for a minute, but it was really the gin that was key to sparking the gin revolution in the late 1980s. And the whole brand in itself is really, really focused around innovation. First things first, I always like to ask, what is gin? I think really a surprising number of people don't necessarily know what it is or how broad of a category it can really be. I think we all know that dictionary definition, neutral spirit that's flavored predominantly with juniper, a minimum of 40%. But even just that, in that definition, means you have so much room for opportunity, so much room for so many different options. A lot of people bring it back to those botanicals. They're like, yeah, gin, it's juniper, but there's a lot more to it than just that. However, it's a really important starting point. So at Bombay, we source all of our botanicals from this guy. His name is Ivano Tenuti. So he is our master botanicalist. As far as we're aware, we're the only gin brand that has one. Usually what a lot of gin distilleries will do is they kind of order through, think of it like the Amazon of botanicals, where you order it by weight. You don't necessarily know or get to decide where it's coming from. You get what you get. Where Ivano has created these relationships directly with the farmers and the suppliers that not only allows us to get the most consistent and best quality botanicals, but it's really focusing on the terroir, which really, I mean, I think we all know how important that is, whether it's for a wine or for the botanicals that are being added to the gin. So for example, our juniper, we source that from a co-op in Tuscany. And that comes only to us, directly to us. And it means that we're getting this really bright, herbaceous, citrus forward juniper, which is really the backbone of Bombay. Not only that, but then how we extract these flavors is also what really allows the terroir to shine through. So here we have Bombay Sapphire. So we have 10 botanicals. The furthest on the left, the kind of like usual suspects, I'd say. So we have 8 of those, which are in Bombay Dry. And then we have our 2 signature Sapphire botanicals on the right. So we have cubeb berries and grains of paradise, kind of created for like a American palate. It was a bit drier, spicier. Those spices really end kind of like a pop to the finish. And it was launched in 1987. We worked with Michel Roux, who was also the mastermind of the well-known brand Absolute. But he really helped to bring the gin back on the scene. Vodka was really reigning king. We showed up with this iconic blue bottle and the name, and it's kind of hard to miss. I think we all know exactly what the bottle looks like on the back bar. Also tying in line with this, we're really excited. We've been working for a while, but all of our botanicals by the end of the year are going to be certified sustainably sourced by EcoCert. So always looking towards that future and what we can continuously keep doing. So we have our botanicals, we have to hand them off to our master distiller. This amazing woman is Dr. Anne Brock. So she's really behind making Bombay Bombay. She leads 16 distillers day in and day out, has a PhD in organic chemistry. But the process that she runs through is really creates that signature finish. So in just gin distillation, you have a few different varieties. These are going to be the 2 most common that you see. So we have on our left, steep and boil. Really how gin started. 90% of gins today are still made this way. You take your botanicals, you put it in the still, you heat it up. When it boils, those flavors infuse. Then you have vapor distillation, which is a bit less common. So you have the botanicals that are suspended above the liquid. So they interact only by steam, which is how they extract the flavors. So there's no direct content, which means you get a bit lighter notes. It creates that kind of cleaner, fresh, bright flavors. Mouthfeel wise, even in steep and boil, you're gonna extract a lot more of those oils, and sometimes the botanicals can get burnt, stuck to the still, where vapor distillation, you have a bit more, I guess, you have a bit more deciding on how you're interacting with those flavors. Before I finish, I also just really want to touch on Laverstoke. So this is our brand home, our distillery over in the UK. So we bought these buildings back in 2010 and have been working with English Heritage to restore them, all the while conserving the wildlife. We were the first distillery to win Outstanding from Bream, which I can get into more of that if you want some more information, but I think we're only one of 2 distilleries now to have that. So really environmentally focused, from nothing going to landfill. Electricity is created by a water turbine and solar panels. 50% of our energy is run by an Italian biomass boiler, where we use the spent waste from the previous gin runs and locally sourced wood chips. And even the rainwater is harnessed to water these plants in the greenhouse and to flush the toilets, which I think this is really key to mentioning all of this, because looking at a bigger name brand like Bombay, you don't necessarily think that there's a lot of sustainable practices going on, and we're looking at what can be done next in the future. But I think it's really key, and also an important aspect to what makes Bombay Bombay. So hopefully, I mean, that might give you a little bit of inside notes on how unique Sapphire really is, from sparking the gin revolution in 1987 to constantly looking towards the future and what's next.
Awesome. Thank you, Zoe. And I know we're going to hear back from you in a couple of minutes as well, but it's time for us to, where did Nick go? There he is, Nick Maas, Death Store Gin. So Death Store has nothing to do with the looks of your grooming habits, right, Nick? It's just your brand identity. So tell us a little bit about that, please.
Correct. So Death Store Gin is it's my favorite gin. It's a gin that we make here quite often at the Dancing Goat Distillery. So I need to be completely honest with you. We bought Death Store Gin in a bankruptcy. It did not originate here, but we fought very hard to keep it in our state. It's a really important element of our state. So Death Store Gin, I'll just transition off sustainability because I was so impressed.
Nick, what state is that?
Wisconsin.
All right.
Wisconsin, baby. Right there. So you see that? That's
Loving
the
it.
Death Store Passage. That little bit of land in between mainland Wisconsin and Washington Island.
So that's where we get the name from Death Store Gin from. And Death Store, the reason we call it Death Store is it's actually the Death Store Passage. And there's the most freshwater shipwrecks there of anywhere. And it comes from people coming in to try to supply Chicago by water. And so the Death Store Passage, we like to say, it took a lot of treacherous courage and resilience to complete the passage through, just like the character of our spirit. We really like to talk a lot about the Death Store Gin that we make and the Death Store Gin that we own. We don't really like to revisit too much of the really complicated story of its brand life, but basically Death Store Gin started as a what would you call an economic development program for Washington Island. And originally they were harvesting, and they tried to get wheat on the island. And they tried to get juniper on the island to kind of bring jobs to the island and reinvigorate it. And then from there, they sold some of that to a brewery, but most of it went to Death Store Middleton. Along the way, some of the sourcing got really complicated, and I can't speak to it because I wasn't a part of it. But our mission and our journey now is trying to make the story true and trying to put all those elements into place. And so we have this year we've taken 17,000 pounds of oats off of Washington Island. And we'll take about 100,000 pounds of white winter wheat off the island. What's up, Distillery? Oh, you're over here, Gallup. You're right there. White winter wheat. That's what I'm talking about. You know, that's sweet. But our big thing is we want to really harvest terroir, just like she was talking about with gin. It's a really important element of what we do. And so with Death Store Gin, yeah, let's pull this up. Or is that already up?
It's not up.
Oh, it's not up. No, it's not up. We'll get it up. So one of the things that we do is we forage wild juniper off of the island. We also seed more of it. It's a very small component of our gin, but we're trying to get more of it. Our gin itself is a really clever little thing. It's juniper, coriander, and fennel. It's one of the first craft spirits in the US. And a lot of people, I mean, I'll say this kind of arrogantly to say, a lot of people would say it triggered the Nouveau American gin category. It's an intentionally simple recipe, 3 botanicals, juniper, coriander, and fennel. And if I do my job right, that creates a much more bright, beautiful, and robust bouquet than just 3 notes. So one of the things about gin that's really, really important that you're going to see probably in every gin up here is coriander as an ingredient. So coriander as an ingredient is going to trigger your ability to taste juniper in a distillate. So everyone up here is going to have either coriander or citrus inside of their gin because it's going to do the same thing functionally. It's going to allow us to taste the juniper in the distillate. It's also going to trigger on the bouquet. What the thing with our gin is there's a little bit of astringency from the natural juniper. And so what we've done is the fennel, we kick that up a little bit. So you can have, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get juniper on the bouquet. We want citrus triggered by coriander on the palate. And then we want to chill that all out with a little bit of fennel for actual cooling. So it's like a 1, 2, 3. What we'll usually end up getting is notes of orange, notes of lemon, notes of lime, and all that's coming from our coriander. Like I said, it's 3 botanicals. Sorry, that's I hope someone figures that out because I can't right now. We'll go to the next slide. So when we're talking about those three botanicals, it's really important to remember what we're even doing here, which is we're triggering flavor, right? We're activating the palate and we're stimulating the nasopharyngeal passage, right? And so we're going to wake all that up with scent, with smell. And with us, we get a lot of that bouquet from our juniper and our coriander. So when we're talking about our three ingredients, and we're talking about any ingredients, and shout out to my boy Tim Rita, because he's a stud, and that looked great. And I love Orgeat, but I think he'd probably agree with me. I'd love to hear his opinion on this. Is it's really important to match flavors, specifically garnishes and a gin. But more importantly for me, with my job, remember I'm the guy running the still, is I need to match flavors with each other in the gin. And so Destor Gin, if you go through the flavor Bible, which is something really cool and you should check out. And I think in the gin issue, they're going to cover that. And if I'm wrong, and if I messed it up, I apologize and please correct me. But when you're looking at Destor Gin, if you look at the flavor Bible, juniper, coriander, and fennel all have relationships with each other. And that relationship is known as a flavor affinity, right? And so there's really good flavor combinations, you know, that are okay, that go pretty well together. But then there's things called flavor affinities that are like super combos of flavor. And what they end up doing is they can trigger actual hormonal, emotional responses. A few examples that everyone I think would be really familiar with is coffee and cream, chocolate and cream, milk chocolate, right? I think cinnamon and oat is one, you know, oatmeal cookies. I think that cinnamon, cassia, and allspice creates one. And so there's all these different types of flavor affinities that you can play with in cocktails. So what we did is we took a flavor, well, we didn't do it. We kept doing it because Destor did it first, and we preserved the original recipe. We just changed the ratios a little bit. But the relationship of juniper, coriander, and fennel together is a flavor affinity. And then what we like to do when we make a gin and tonic, specifically, that's our little wheel is for here. When you look at tonic water, we talked about this earlier. Thank you so much for the history lesson. The main flavor ingredient is quinine. Quinine also happens to have a flavor relationship with juniper, coriander, and fennel. And so that's a perfect match, in my opinion. Sorry to bust it to the rest of you guys, but we make the best gin and tonic gin for sure. And that's up for debate, and they can debate it later. And then the other thing that's important to remember is you got to match those botanicals to actual garnishes. And so a lot of people are just going to go straight to, you know, I don't know, like probably a lime, because they don't have your best interest at heart to garnish your gin and tonic. And you should hold those people accountable, because that's not right. What I do is I go right for a mint sprig, boop. And what that is, that's an aromatic garnish. It's going to wake up our palate, get us ready to receive flavor. And then I like to put orange in there because it forms a perfect complement with our juniper, coriander, fennel, and quinine. And that's how you bartend with gin. If I got more time, I can go into some geeky specs. I know we were talking about some geeky specs on distilling.
You got 30 seconds, man.
I got 30 seconds. Okay. Destor Gin is a steam infused and macerated gin. So we have a 2,000 liter Carl pot still. We macerate juniper from Washington Island in it to get maximum flavor extraction. Then we set it up our hybrid column still, where we steam extract it through a botanical basket that's packed with juniper, coriander, fennel in that order, because it's important and it matters. If you want to know more about it, you can hit me up on my socials, DG_whiskey, or at dancinggoat.com. And I'd love to tell you more about it. By the way, 94 proof is the best proof for gin. Hit me up if you want to know more about it. And if you want a job, we're hiring. And if you want to get a drink, hit me up or hit up Tim Rita. And I think that's 30 seconds.
Oh
Yeah, you're
my
right
God.
on, man.
Oh,
That was fantastic. Nick, thank God you have 0.0 energy. You know, I need a nap now, man.
I've been up cracking my whip since about 4. So I'm feeling that coffee.
That's amazing.
Thank you guys for having us. We really appreciate it. And thanks for sharing all your stories. Y'all great. This was so cool, man. Thanks for having us. Coyote Cowboy at Cambridge signing out.
Thanks, Nick. All right, David, I'm sorry. You got to follow that act, man. But David Warter from New Amsterdam, Jim, I don't know how you're going to do this, but you're going to try and talk to us about New Amsterdam. What are you guys doing there?
Well, let's see now.
Breaking-
I'm sharing my screen, I hope.
All right.
Yeah, can you hear me?
You're on. You're good. You're great.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, as you said, it's going to be hard to follow Nick, but I'm going to have some fun doing it because, you know, I as much as I do love Destor, I've had it many times. I love my product as well. So I think there's some great things to talk about. So basically, New Amsterdam, we started the New Amsterdam gin in the late 90s. And what we really wanted to focus on was in the original New Amsterdam, we wanted to focus on a botanical mix that really emphasized citrus. Because we're a big believer in the New American style, our citrus note is very, very prominently coming forward. So that way, when you make a mixed drink cocktail with our original New Amsterdam Stratosphere, you're going to really sense that the juniper, but that citrus is just competing with it. It's really got a great strong orange and lime note. And then a couple of years back, we decided what we were going to do was we were going to launch our own London Dry. So I actually had a lot of fun. This is where the kind of the geeky side of me comes out. So we've got a little 1 gallon still that looks like our pot stills that we make some product on. We took a 1 gallon still. We took 35 different botanicals, and we just started doing combinations and having some fun and tasting it all. You know, I love what Nick was talking about figuring out the combinations of things that work together. One of the things that we really love that's in our botanical bill there is actually the the angelica root. For me, the roots are a real key for me on the botanicals. You can do orris root, you can do the angelica root, because really it's like I don't know, maybe if you're the analogy might be if you're a basketball person, think about the Miami Heat teams. If you're a soccer person, think about the French team right now. You might put all the all-stars together, but you need that glue player, that person that's going to bring them all together and make them complement each other. To me, that's the key, and that's when we did all of our distillations, distillation after distillation, just after distillation. We said, wow, how do you get that balance? The balance is just getting that right amount of the root to go with as the cassia, you know, giving you some of that spice, and then you've got the juniper and the coriander. I love Nick's description of how the coriander really plays through, because I didn't really think that's how it was going to play the first time I started distilling with it, but I was like, wow, that's really, really great. So I think one of the other things that, you know, I'm fortunate that we, you know, work for Gallo. We have a very large organization. We have what we really want to pride ourselves on is to use that research that we have to the best of our capabilities. So not only did we do all those distillations, but we did chemical analyses in each of those distillations. And when we found that right recipe, we actually then analyze every single distillation on a GC and make sure that not only am I tasting everything, but we're also looking at trending, and we're trying to figure out exactly how, you know, similarly to what Zoe was talking about, making sure that you have the right sourcing. We actually analyze every single one of our beginning ingredients as well, just to make sure that you know, when you open up a bottle of New Amsterdam, you're expecting it to taste the same each and every single time. And I take pride in the fact that I want to be able to open it up when I have my friends over and be able to have a great, you know, French 75, a gin and tonic, something along those lines. So for me, I'm fortunate. I love the French 75, where you can manage to mix it with a little bit of sparkling wine. We have a few sparkling wines in our portfolio. La Marca works really well, in case you're wondering. It's in a lot of different restaurants. So, you know, those combinations will really emphasize, and the baubles will help bring up a little bit of that juniper as well as the citrus flavors that come right on through. So it kind of makes me think that it might be a good time for me to have one of those real soon after this presentation, because it's making me thirsty.
Amen. Same here. Thank you, David. That was awesome. And so next up, where are you? Harley Norwood from Dented Brick. Tell us a little bit about your gin and your name, Dented Brick. Where's that coming from? You got to take yourself off mute, though, Harley, please.
My apologies. Dented Brick, the name came from the original well drillers that lived on site here. They found the artesian well that is below us and feeds our mashes and our spirits program. So yeah, there was a gun shootout and there was some dented bricks that were retrieved, and that's where the name came from.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So forgive me, I was added to this discussion a little short notice, but
it's all right. We're thrilled to have you here, man.
Best and
You slipped into mute again, though, Harley. Harley, can you hear me? Just got to unmute. All right. No. Looks like you're still muted. Sounds like you're still muted. All right, you know what, Harley, we're not hearing you, so we're gonna move ahead. I'm sorry about that. We're gonna go back to Zoe and we're gonna come back to you. If you don't mind that. We're gonna let you rest up and recover and get your PowerPoint back together. So if you don't mind stopping the screen share. And we're gonna ask Zoe to pick it up again.
Hello. All right,
Right.
I'll jump back in over here with my screen share. It's me again. So we talked about Bombay Sapphire last round. Now gonna touch on Bombay Bramble, as well as Bombay Dry. So kind of how we follow up with something like Sapphire and bring it over to the flavored gin category. As we're discussing, sitting here talking about gin, we all know that the gin category is growing stronger and bigger, and there's new brands every single week on the market. The creativity out there, even from just hearing you guys speak, is crazy. And we're also, I think we all kind of touched on a little bit sustainability as well, as we're all becoming a lot more conscious of our impact on the planet. But from the Bombay side of things, from the gin lover side of things, we're really excited by the bright future. And from the Bombay side of things, we're super proud to have kind of like kickstarted that gin renaissance and keep positively moving forward. So this new guy, you may have heard of, may have seen it, may have not seen or heard of it. It is very new. We just launched it in New York about 3 months ago. And it is the first in like 10 years that is a new Bombay product has been launched. We are looking at it and we are kind of, following in the footsteps of this iconic bottle. How do we do that? It helped launch the modern gin craze. And how are we going to move this into a flavored gin? The inspiration comes from the Bramble. So I think we're probably all familiar with it, but it was that modern classic, that delicious gin sour over crushed ice with the drizzle of creme de mure, created by the late Dick Bradsell in the 1980s in London, and originally created with Bombay Sapphire, which made it even more of a wonderful connection. So we are starting with Bombay Dry as the base. So you saw these botanicals before. It's essentially Bombay Sapphire without the cubeb berries and the pepper. So we have kind of like our classic 8 botanicals, all sustainably sourced. And this was launched in 1959. It was actually one of the fastest growing gins on the market, created for the American palate, and really, really popular with that like 3 martini lunch crowd. So really launched into popularity there. So we start with, start with our classic London dry gin base. And then we're going to be adding a rich fruit infusion by none other than the masters of liqueurs themselves. This is the Merlet family. So they've been in the business for years. And if you remember Ivano Tenuti, he is very good friends with them and really admires their work. So is really excited to work a lot closer with them. And the 3 of them, along with Ivano, have created this bespoke rich fruit infusion that really not only lets the Bombay and the botanicals in the gin shine, but allows that fruit to really speak for itself as well. So we start with raspberries, blackberries. They're harvested at their peak ripeness, flash frozen, infused into high quality neutral grain spirit. And it allows all those notes that you want when you see something's flavored with blackberry and raspberry. That all kind of comes through. That rich fruit infusion that they make ends up at 30% ABV. And then we have our distillate of Bombay Dry, which is 86%, We put them together, a bit of water, and dilute it down to 43%, which is the same as Bombay Dry. But what's different about this as compared to, say, another flavored gin? Actually, quite a bit. So we have, I mean, we're only using 100% natural flavorings and colors, where a lot of competitor brands will take like a rich flavor compound and add it into the gin. We're not just flavoring the gin, we're blending that rich fruit infusion with the gin itself. It's a bit more complex and it's a bit more time consuming, but we think it's really important because it allows that natural fruit and the natural ingredients to shine. And it's definitely evident when you're mixing it in drinks, which is what everybody wants to do with the gin anyway. All of that means we also have no added refined sugar. So the only sugar that's in the bottle is coming from the residual sugars of the fruit. That means we're sitting at 9 grams of sugar per liter. And to give you some kind of context where it is in the market, these are kind of our closest competitors. So the closest to us is going to be Beefeater Pink, and that's at 46, which is a pretty big jump from 9. That's more popular in the US market, where Gordon's you're going to see a lot in the UK. That's sitting at 68. And then Whitley Meal, one of their flavored gins, is at 93. So kind of, I mean, all in its own realm, but very different than 9 grams of sugar comparatively. What this means is you have a much more sophisticated kind of tasting flavored gin. So it's a bit cleaner. It's a lot more versatile because you don't have that added sugar. It means you get to play around with it a lot more and choose what sweeteners you're adding. Tasting notes wise, I think a lot of people see it and they're like, oh, it's red. It's a red gin. It's a slow gin. It must be sweet, which we obviously know it's not based on that sugar. So up front, you have like, oh, we have bam berries right up front. So there's a lot of that like fresh fruit, those raspberries, that blackberry note, and it quickly moves over to juniper, definitely coming through from that gin. And it finishes on this kind of like woody blackberry jam. So you get those fruity notes you're getting up front, but it finishes on much more like stewed berry, and Angelica is adding those kind of woody notes to it. So as we said before, it's a lot more versatile. So it's delicious in a bramble and tonic, but I definitely recommend also like trying it with lemonade or ginger ale. It's pretty approachable and you can add it in what you want. It's awesome in a clover club, obviously a bramble that kind of, I feel, goes unsaid. But this is our new creative gin expression. Very excited about it. It's 100% natural. No added sugar. And I think it really just continues on that conversation about how Bombay is founded in innovation and always looking towards the future.
Awesome. Thank you, Zoe. I agree with you that it is super refreshing. I have to confess to having enjoyed it this summer in a tonic.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go back to Harley and pick up where you left off, man.
All right, sorry about the technical difficulties. I don't know what happened there. So we'll be reading off paper. I think my presentation was messing up my computer. Anyway, so Great Basin Bristlecone Gin. So Dented Brick Distillery wanted to pay homage to the Great Basin and the aquifer, or the artesian well that's underneath. The Great Basin is the largest area of contiguous endorheic watersheds that feed the artesian well underneath the distillery. And yeah, we just wanted to pay homage and add in some indigenous plants to gin styling, American gin styling. So
exactly where is the Great Basin? Would you just remind us where the Great Basin is, where exactly you guys are located?
The Great Basin is in mostly in most of Nevada, a good portion of the western, a good portion of western Utah, southeastern Oregon, and in through the Sierra Nevadas down through California to the Mojave.
Awesome. You slipped back into mute, Harley.
Sorry about that.
All
So
right.
the bristlecone plant is Pinus aristata. It's known as the Rocky Mountain or interior bristlecone pine. It lives for about 2,000 to 3,000 years, depending on location. So we use the spruce tips from the bristlecone pine in our gin bill. So also our let's move on to mash bill. That was just to cover kind of the regionality portion of this, our water and indigenous plants. So we use, for our fermentations, we use 80% locally grown rye, 20% hard winter wheat, also locally grown. Our artesian well water that's rich in nutrients for yeast health. And after conversion, we do a 66-hour fermentation, upon which we send over to our low wines column, and we strip out that distillation. And then we do a high wines rectification distillation through our pot and vodka column, and we distill it all the way up to neutral and a little below so we can get some nice mouthfeel, at which point we will cold macerate at 100 proof our botanical bill, which is juniper, angelica root, coriander, lavender flower, orange peel, spruce tips, and lemon peel. After a 48-hour maceration, we will then send that back to our still for another redistillation, at which point we will pull off our good spirit, and then we will reduce that beautiful spirit to gin to a 90 proof, and that provides us with a beautiful plum satin textured spirit with like a well-balanced pine, floral, vanilla notes, key lime, white pepper. So there's a lot of pine in there from, you know, the spruce tips, from the juniper, from the angelica root. I think it's just a well-balanced spirit, and the lavender provides a nice balance of floral notes. And yeah, at which point we...
Oh, you slipped back into mute, Harley, but do you happen to have a picture of the bottle with you that we can take a look at? You have a bottle handy to the label?
I apologize for being super nervous and
that's all right,
not
man.
on point with my presentation, but let's get there.
Your product sounds amazing. I mean, I love the whole idea. I'm really kind of mouth watering for those pine flavors. It sounds really right on. Sounds right.
All right. Bottle
not that Nevada in that area is stranger to gin. There you go. Beautiful. Like that a lot. Cool bottle. Definitely gets the message across. Sounds fantastic. You've slipped into mute again, Harley. So we're going to thank you very much for that. If you can stop your screen, and then we're going to go back to Tim to wrap it up for us back at the Tiki Bar. Thank you, Harley. Welcome back, Tim.
Thank you.
Hey, guys. Welcome back to the Golden Tiki. So what we love at Lyre's is being able to celebrate the true spirit alongside all the greats on the panel. And for me, I love just going back to the classics. So, but I'll go classic, but slightly not classic. So at the Golden Tiki, we do a lot of cool things here. So one of the things I'm going to do is a variation of a Negroni. We like to call it a Viking Negroni.
Ooh.
But
Viking Negroni. I like that.
The Viking Negroni. But this one's a non-alcoholic one. So I'm actually going to use our Aperitif Rosso, which is our supermoon.
Nice.
And I'm kind of more of a bitter guy. So instead of the Italian orange, I'm using our Lyre's Italian Spritz.
Huh.
And then we got a Negroni, but we're not done yet. Oh, oops.
You're never done with Negroni.
We're never done with a Negroni, you know? Just when you thought you had all the stories you could tell about a Negroni, here's another. So don't mind my background. I'll give you some live action bar stuff, but I'll be right back.
That's all right. So you got a lot of action going on in
Talk
Vegas.
amongst yourselves.
Talk amongst yourselves. I
We
wish you could
appreciate
see
that.
what I was doing here, but
I think Tim needed some ice or something.
oh yeah. So I am actually yeah, it's definitely an or something. But
Excellent.
I think we got a surprise heading our way there, Mr. Lars.
So Tim, are you drinking it neat or what, man? Straight up neat?
I am not. It is so it'll be chilled in a special way, which you'll see
The
shortly.
suspense is killing me. I hope it lasts.
Tim, you
I
are
know.
sure this is non-alcoholic, right?
It is very all right. So I have my, oh gosh, I'm trying to do my best version of it. You're making me laugh. But
All right then.
I'm sure I'll be way.
So
under
what puts the
time,
Viking
but,
in a Viking Negroni?
It's a little colder.
Vikings
The
do like it
original
cold.
alcoholic.
I think we got a clue
alcoholic
coming up
version.
with that, Lars.
Yeah,
So-
it's a little colder. This one is very tropical and colder because you are in the world famous Golden Tiki. So what I will do, and part of the concepts are very world famous too. So you'll see it. I'm almost done. I keep forgetting.
Really-
Oh, you can hear me.
This is
It's a good thing I remembered that.
typical
But,
Vegas. Who is that man behind the screen?
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Everyone wins. Come on. Anyway, here I come.
Where's Nick when we need him, right?
Right.
Right. So
There he is. Wow, that's a lot of garnish, man. Holy cow.
it's chilled with the world
Did you go
famous
out to,
Gold.
did you go out on the strip to get half of that stuff or what, man?
I did actually. The guy's waiting around the corner. I gotta pay him. But no. So at the Golden Tiki, we are famous for the Dole Whip, and I love that we can do a non-alcoholic Viking Negroni made with the wonderful Lyres. So
Amen. Gotta love that. Thank you very much, Tim. So that was absolutely refreshing. We appreciate that very much. And, this has definitely been one of the higher energy and more interesting back to
Well,
spirit.
we are talking about gin, and it's
Right.
we're not talking about
Absolutely.
your grandfather's gin, your grandmother's gin. This is the new
That's
world of
right.
gin.
That's right. No bathtubs were hurt in the filming of this.
No, and we got more flame. There we go.
All right. Well, I think it's time for me to say thank you on behalf of the FIU Bacardi Center of Excellence, Lyre's Non-Alcoholic Experience, Tasting Panel Magazine, and a toast to our publisher and editor-in-chief, Meredith May. And remember to read up on this whole wonderful episode and more in the January issue of Tasting Panel Magazine, 2022 January. And look for our recording on tastingpanel.com and Facebook Live on the Tasting Panel platform. And join us next on November 18th when we really if this was gin, I can't wait to see what whiskey brings to us. So our next one is.
I don't know what's going to happen on that one, man. Let's get
Warming
Tim
up.
back. We'll get the whole crew back and let's see what we can do with gin. Beyond to whiskey now.
Exactly. We'll roll out the bathtubs. So we'll be warming up to whiskey global style on November 18th. Keep your eye out for the alerts to that and the links, and we look forward to seeing you then. This is Lars Light signing off and wishing you a very genuine evening. Thanks, folks.
Great.
cheers.